Hi there, it's Martin here with a video to help you think deeply about the value that you are adding to your properties. Now, value is a little bit of a subjective subject. It's very easy to say, I have sold this property at this price, so I know the value of the property at the day that I sold it. And it's very easy to value shall we say, an HMO bedroom because you've got a rental valuation of that bedroom, the price that you are able to rent that room out. But I wanted to just sow the seeds about another kind of value, and that is the value that is perceived. It's the value that you and I and anyone else who uses your property, lives in your property, rents your property, puts on that property. And really where I'm heading here is to encourage you to think about the value of the space that you are creating. And let's take an example here. If you are converting a property maybe into an HMO and you're creating an HMO bedroom with perhaps an ensuite, there's value in that HMO bedroom and ensuite as far as the usability goes. If a tenant rents that room and doesn't feel the room is usable because it's a really odd layout, the bed's in the wrong place, when you sit on the bed you can't possibly see the television, when you go into the ensuite you bang your knees on the basin trying to use the toilet, the shower is too small, then that particular tenant isn't going to value that room that highly, and the likelihood is that you'll have a lot more churn. The tenant may only stay for their minimum 6-month period on their AST and then move on, because after a short time they realise that the room is just not usable for them. In fact, there's a lot of tenants that I hear about that actually try and back out of their ASTs after a few months. Now, I don't know the stories, but could that be because they've actually found that the space they've rented is not really that usable? So yes, value is important as far as end values and drawing finance out of the property, and value is important as far as what can you rent your rooms for. But if you don't think about the value of what's in your rooms and what's in your property, then you can very easily find that you get massive churn, and any increased value you've made elsewhere in the building is actually lost by the fact that you've always got one empty room. There's always one room that you always struggle to rent, and that comes down to this value. What I'd encourage you to do is, when you're planning your refurbishments, put yourself in the mind of the person who's going to be renting the room, who's going to be buying the room from you. Imagine how you would live in it. When you come home from work, where would you put your coat? Where would you put your bag? Where would you want to sit? If you can imagine that room and it feels like a really usable space, then the likelihood is you've created a good value room. If it feels compromised to you, then have a look at how you might lay it out differently. Could you put the bed in a different place? Could you move the wardrobe somewhere else? Maybe the television needs an extension lead on it so that the aerial socket's in a slightly different location. But stepping back from that, remember with things like en-suites, they're not easy to modify after you've built them. So think long and hard about how they're being designed. Just because an architect's drawn an en-suite on the drawing, that isn't necessarily the best layout. Question, quiz, challenge, make sure that you're thinking your designs through really well, because it really will add value, and that's more value than just the pound notes in the valuation of the property. It will add value because you won't have churn of tenants in the rooms that are renting from you. Really hope this little video has been of use to you. Please do like and share, leave some comments, and we'll reply back to you. And I'll see you on the next video in this series.